Hey everybody, welcome to Module 11. That sounds like a lot, doesn't it? Our 11th week together. This week we are going to talk about purpose and meaning, which is just a really great way to take kind of all the components that we've been talking about and look at the bigger picture. I love this quote from Mother Teresa. There's a light in this world, a healing spirit more powerful than any darkness we may encounter. It emerges through the lives of ordinary people who hear a call and answer in extraordinary ways. And so we're going to think a little bit about how we can all do that. This is what we're going to talk about today, how this particular topic fits into the bigger picture and why it matters. It really, really does matter. And it matters both while you're in school and then also just kind of in the bigger picture, as I mentioned, of your life. We'll talk about the 4 pillars of meaning and how to think about that and how purpose fits into that. We'll look at how that applies to your work. If you're thinking about what you want to do for work after college, or if you're already in a career, what that might mean for you. And then your specific purpose, how to design that, how to think about that, and then how to put that into action. So just to step back a little bit to some of the things that we've already talked about and to see where meaning and purpose fit into that, you'll remember from very early on, we talked about Perma, which is one of the most widely accepted models of well-being, and sometimes it's 6 elements of well-being. We had some really good discussion about that on in one of our discussion boards during the week of the models of well-being. That H for health is missing from this, but what we want to talk about today is the M, which is in addition to all these other really, really important things, it's very, very critical and purpose in our lives. And we've looked at this before as well. So this is the 5 C's of well-being culture that's in place at Gateway at our very own college. And where meaning and well-being fits into this model is kind of the overlap between contribution and career. So it finding meaning and purpose helps you make decisions that contribute to both career and life success, but it also helps you visualize being part of something bigger than yourself and something that's meaningful for you. So why talking about all of this matters? When what we do means something to us, whether that's just kind of in our everyday lives or when you're thinking about your schoolwork at 10 o'clock on a Sunday night when some things might be due and you're kind of thinking, oh my gosh, why do I have to do this? Or, you know, in your work, in your career and what you're going to spend your life doing. When our effort is meaningful to us, it really aligns with who we are. And that connects all the dots for us. That is providing a sense of significance and coherence. So, significance meaning that it actually is important, feels important, and that it matters. And then coherence is that all the pieces kind of fit together. And it really gives us direction. So, meaning's kind of the journey and the journey of your life, and you want to have your life be meaningful. And then purpose, so a specific purpose, is actually kind of the compass that guides you on that journey. So that gives you a direction and enables you when you set your goals to really stick with those because, again, they matter to you and they make sense to you and they fit with who you are as a person. We're going to talk specifically about a purpose for learning, and then you're actually going to have an assignment to create that. So the benefits of having that really clearly articulated is that it connects your schoolwork, which even in cases where it's seemingly not connected to real life, we hear that all the time about math, which is kind of like, when am I ever going to use this again? Being able to have a really specific purpose for learning allows you to overlay that to all of the different things that you're doing and connect them to your longer term goals. And it helps you set and pursue specific goals that meet your why. So, why am I doing this? Why is this meaningful? And those types of goals are going to be both self oriented, which means that they align with your unique strengths and your values, the things that are important to you, but they're also self transcendent. So they're allowing you to contribute to something that's bigger than just yourself, part of something that's. So we heard a little bit about this in one of the videos, but these are the 4 pillars that come together to make meaning. And in the video, Emily Esfahani Smith talks about meaning contributing to a more fulfilling life than just happiness. So we've talked about this before, where there's hedonic happiness versus eudaimonic fulfillment. And that's where happiness is important, and it's pleasant things and it's positive emotions, but really to feel as if your life is making a difference, that you matter to other people and you're contributing something that matters. That's more important for a longer term well-being. So the 4 components, the 4 pillars are belonging, purpose, transcendence, and storytelling. And belonging, we've heard about relationships being kind of the cornerstone of any model of well-being. And that's what belonging is. It feels like you have relationships with people that value you for who you are authentically, who you are intrinsically, who you are inside, and the ability to create those bonds with family and friends and people that you work with. And so really just feeling, that really important sense of belonging. And that's really important when you're in college, that you feel like you belong in that place. Purpose, which we kind of talked about a little bit more specifically, again, is the compass that directs you towards a meaningful and fulfilling life. And that's your ability to use your unique strengths. So we've talked about signature strengths and character strengths quite a bit. So being able not just to use those in your everyday life, but to actually use them in service of others. So doing something that's worthwhile. And that relates to transcendence. Transcendence is that ability to feel elevated above the daily norm. So not just, the daily hubbub, where you kind of are on autopilot, but really that ability to be kind of in the zone or in a state of flow where you are challenged, but you're using your strengths and you're doing something really great, and everything just feels that much more important. And then finally, storytelling, which is taking ownership of your own narrative, aligning the way that you tell your own story with your values and purpose. And you can kind of rewrite your own story in your head, and the way that you tell it to other people. And that's a way of putting the pieces together to create meaning. So, related to that, when you're thinking about long-term decisions around career choices and life choices, you really want to think about what you're going to be doing all day, every day. And we are going to have a module on positive careers. So we'll talk about this in more depth. But the way that it relates to this is that you really do, as adults, we spend more than half of our time awake at work. So we want to make sure that the time that we're spending there has significance and feels important and feels worthwhile. So some of the dimensions for looking at what makes work meaningful include self. So again, that's how the work that you're doing, the organization that you work for, relates and aligns with what you believe and what you see as valuable, and that motivates you. So when it feels important and significant, it motivates you intrinsically. So you're not just getting paid for a job, but you really feel like what you're doing is important, and you kind of come home at the end of the day like, yeah, that really meant something to me. Others, so colleagues, leaders, groups, students, patients, whatever it might be, that again relates back to our relationships and our sense of belonging. So the relationships that you have with the people that you work with create a huge sense of meaning. The work itself, so the context of the work, working in healthcare, working in education, working in other fields where what you're doing, the work that you're doing all day long, every day is important. It's that those tasks are making a difference. And then finally, spirituality, which can be related to religion, but doesn't necessarily have to be. It's just a connection to something bigger than yourself. So not, again, I'm just in this work because it pays the most, but because you know it's making a difference either to individual people or to groups of people or even at a higher level, so you can look at your purpose at different levels. You can, at a greater level of changing policy or reaching larger groups of people. But spirituality itself is how you believe you're connected to something that elevates you, that's big. So let's think a little bit about how do we get there. So I'm going to show you in a second some examples of purpose statements, and you'll see that it takes a little bit of time to really work on it and to get it down to the essential. So this is some reflection that you can do, in both your discussion and your assignment this week have to do with this. So start thinking about this: who, why, and how. And the why is really where the meaning fits in. Who are you? Think about self-awareness. We've done some self-assessment in this course of who are you? And then think about your aspirations of really who do you want to be? Who do you want to become? You have all these incredible strengths that you bring to the table. How do you want to develop those and enhance those and elevate those? And so think about the why. So bringing yourself to the table. Why do you want to do whatever it is you set your mind to, whatever your goal is? So bringing your unique strengths. How do you bring your gifts to the world? What do you like to do? What's energizing to you? What really gets you excited, so that at the end of the day you feel vibrant and alive? And then what are your values? So what's important to you? And aligning all of those things will start to point you in a really specific direction. And then finally, how are you going to bring this to the world and to your life? What difference do you want to make? Think about things that you want to make better, things that you want to change, things that you could have a positive impact on. And so far in your life, what has been your greatest contribution, and how can you leverage that? So just to quickly reflect on your character strengths. Remember, we did these earlier in the course. We talked about them quite a bit and thought about them quite a bit, and how you can use them and how you can recognize them in other people. But think specifically about yours and how you really come alive when you get to use those, and how using them can make a difference for other people. And again, our strengths are the psychological air that we breathe. And how can you breathe life into other people through you? This is a values assessment, a values clarification that you'll find in the Canvas course in the module under the assignment. You'll find this worksheet and you'll go through it. Obviously, when you take a look at this page, every single thing on here is really, really, really important. But the challenge is for you to go through and narrow it down. So start by identifying the 10 that are the most important to you. And then take those 10 and narrow it down to 5. And that's really, really hard to do, but you want to be able to prioritize and say, you know what? These are essential to me. These are the things that absolutely 100% mean the most to me. And then think about those moving forward and thinking about your purpose statement. So we want you to be able to create a really concise purpose statement of what is absolutely essential for you to find meaning in your life. So this is an example I like to share of a student that I was working with, and this was kind of their first pass at it. So it's a little bit like they took as many of those values as they could and tried to fit them all into one statement. And that's what's really hard to do, is to let things go. And by letting things go and not including them in your purpose statement is not at all saying they're not important, but the more concise you can be to concentrate on what's important to you, the more you're going to be able to do it. So you're kind of just shedding away some of the layers. So to live authentically and grow by encouraging and inspiring positive change in others and those around them through meaningful relationships built on love and kindness. And that's beautiful, and it's a meaningful statement. But for somebody to be able to say, this is what I'm here for, it's a little bit it's a little bit wordy, and it just includes too much. So here are some examples that are a little bit more concise and narrowed down to the essentials. To inspire children to be more than they thought they could be. So that's probably someone in education, but it could be a coach, it could be, a piano teacher, it could be anybody or it could be a parent. That could be a parent's purpose statement, thinking about their kids and just to give them hope in the world to be the best that they could be. The second one is obviously a teacher. They state that to be a teacher and inspire my students to be the best version of themselves. That's just something that person can think about every single day. I want my students, I want to support them in being the best version of themselves. The third one is to treat everyone I encounter with love and compassion. And that's very broad and very beautiful. Don't you wish that you could run into that person? Hopefully that person is teaching you or serving you in a restaurant or, preaching in the church that you go to. And it's very essential. So it's a compass for how that person is going to act every single day in their life. So I wanted to share mine with you, and it was much longer than this when I first started, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with the specific job that I have. It has to do with what I view as my calling and my work in the world, but I could take this with me to different jobs. So it's not entirely tied to a career, but my purpose statement is to inspire a desire to enthusiastically participate in the world. So with everyone I encounter, I hope that they get excited about something and they take that out into the world and make a difference. So this is the exercise. So you're going to have an exercise to create that broader, more visionary purpose statement that we just looked at. And then you're going to have a second assignment to create a purpose for learning statement. So this is narrower and more focused on what you're doing while you're in college. And there's a version For anybody who is in school part-time and has a full-time job, a career that they're already in, you can kind of change this so that it fits a career. But a purpose for learning statement has so much research behind it that shows that when you know your bigger picture, when you know your why of why you have this long-term goal of completing college, getting your degree, moving out into the world, if you know why, then you're much, much, much more likely to be able to stay in school, to navigate the obstacles. We learned a little bit about hope theory last week, which is where you have a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, and having this really clearly articulated purpose for learning statement really, really helps with that. So you are going to go ahead and complete the following statement. I will become a, and you fill in that career that you've chosen, that you're thinking about, using my signature strengths of, and put in your unique individual strengths that will contribute to your success and meaning in that career. And then because, so this is your why statement, why do you want to do this? Because I can make people's lives better by, and that's, you know, rolling up your strengths into how you're going to make an impact, how you're going to make a difference for people. So you're going to complete that statement, which is really clear and really concise, and then list the classes that you're taking right now and answer this question for each of them. Why is this important to my greater purpose? How will learning this help me make people's lives better? What might be challenging in this class? And how will remembering my purpose for learning help me face this challenge? So think about that as you're going through your college career, all the classes you're going to take. You want to approach them with this bigger picture perspective of finding meaning and purpose in these courses because they contribute to your greater vision. If you are currently working or you want to think about this in terms of a future career, I am a, and the career that you're working in, using my signature strengths of, because I am making people's lives better by, and then you fill in the impact. And then you can relate it back to projects that you're working on, things that you're responsible for in your work. But taking the time to really articulate this and think it through and relate it to your specific strengths and the things that motivate you and your values and where you find meaning and significance can make a huge difference. So this is a really, really important exercise. So that's it for this week. I hope you find a lot of meaning in these assignments.